Welcome, y'all. I'm Phineas T. Broussard, the 10-term Southern Senator from the great state of Down Yonder. Thanks for stopping in. I've been thinking about everything we talked about last, about ample crazy and believing in whatever we've been told. Feel to me like we taking a lot for granted and banking on luck, even when the stakes are America herself, mankind's greatest creation. Tall remind me of my little buddy Buster, the Bantee rooster, and the way he become lucky. See, Buster's experience on a little hippie farm down yonder, the kind that tend to enhance insight into other parts of life. Foxes and coyotes roam around the barnyard periphery every day. But the farmer's enormously powerful pit bull, named Tinkerbell, was ferocious with predators. So even if not well informed, Buster and his barnyard buds at least felt safe. The chickens kind of cluck round freely together amongst the milk cows and pigs and goats, and they all feel special kinship with Tink. Some occasionally went missing, but knowing Tink looking after them, Buster just assumed those no longer around and maybe just graduated or moved away or whatever chickens think. So Buster was comfortable living there, and he even come when called, always expecting it to rain feed. But sometimes the threat don't come from the other side of the fence. Sometimes it come from right in the barnyard. So one beautiful summer evening, it's time for Sunday supper. And this particular evening, supper beat Buster, and Buster's not exactly privy to that plan. When the laid-back farmer is leaning on the fence talking matter-of-factly with his neighbor about his neighbor's new marijuana crop, one he called God's Wonder, he suddenly grabbed Buster by the throat, and before the little rooster even wondered what kind of game they was playing, the farmer spun Buster's body like the crank on a Model T, while holding the bird's head stationary and thus twisting Buster's neck like the little girl in that devil movie. Had Buster been walking around conscious, he'd have been seeing where he come from rather than where he going. As every farmer knows, snapping a bird's neck with a sudden spin and twist usually kill him before the head even chopped off. But as Buster lay on an old fir stump under a high-arcing cleaver, his dazed gaze went wide-eyed just as the blade dropped. It shocked the man so bad he just plain missed, though he did clip the decorative fleshy comb crowning Buster's shaking head. By the time he pulled the cleaver out the stump and scraped some smidge of bloody tissue off the blade, Buster had stumbled off in consternation about how this could even happen in the barnyard he'd known all his life. And it's probably safe to say the elevator on Buster's heart rate weren't going no higher. Not wanting to chase a spooked rooster all over the barnyard, the farmer went into the house to get his pellet gun. He had a 12 gauge, but he thought the pellet gun would get the job done without disturbing the other animals. Their tranquility. Ain't no need to draw attention, after all, to what might be other critters' future fate. Anyway, the packaging on the materials for the gun said it could spit out metal pellets at 900 feet per second, but still not wake the average fella. And it seemed it could, 'cause Buster paused to assess his confusing circumstance. With a bad sprain in his neck and bleeding from the severed comb on top, the man plugged him with a pellet gun nice and quiet like right in the sternum from 35 feet. The powerful direct hit sent Buster back another 5 full yards, where he lay flat on his back, wings spread, staring up at the sky for the last. Or so the farmer thought, but just as he reached down to retrieve the body for butcher, Buster shook it off, got up, and run away again. Now Tinker Bell, always on guard, watched tall as he and Buster been best buds for seemed like forever. And every self-respecting pit bull know who fill his dog dish. And Tink thought better Buster be butchered than hisself, so when the rooster run off a second time, Tink do a double take back at the farmer and, hoping to be helpful, lit off after his former friend to finish the job. Buster couldn't believe Tink had sided with the farmer. This had all the earmarks of a conspiracy. So at this point, dazed, sprained, bleeding on top, sternum cracked, wind knocked out, and feeling betrayed and confused, Buster's no longer inclined to talk first and run after should the need arise. So he cruised around the barnyard at a respectable 90% of his short leg full throttle, an altogether impressive pace considering his condition. Tink couldn't corner as effectively as his ginormous chest and shoulders balanced a massive mandible that, by all appearances, approached half his total weight. But each of the several times Buster slowed and looked back to determine the dog's distance, Tink was closer. On short straightaways, between the chicken coop and the woodpile, where their barnyard friends watched, wondering who to root for, Tink kept closing in. And the last time Buster gauged the gap, all he saw was Tink's enormous teeth. Buster downshift just as the pit bull struck, jaw first, snapping like a bear trap. Tink rolled in the dust, feathers protruding from every gap between fang and molar alike. Enough, in fact, that it took Tink and the farmer both 10 full seconds to realize that was all Tink got, feathers. The dust cloud ensuing from that brouhaha filled the rays of the summery sunset, and an eerie silence prevailed over the barnyard. But for the sound of Tink choking on the chicken feathers that filled his giant jaw. Having never experienced such farm drama, even the farmer and the other livestock was silent in pensive disbelief. And when the dust cleared, Buster, he just plain gone. Later that evening, eating leftover stew instead of chicken, farmer told his wife all about it. After a little sample of God's wonder left by the neighbor, she listened glassy-eyed, disbelieving it all. But while washing dinner down with a shot of Tennessee sour mash, they agreed to commute Buster's sentence, in absentia. They also agreed should Buster's fear those coyotes ever eclipse his fear of Tink, they'd always welcome that tough little bantee back to barnyard. And finally, they decided to change the missing rooster's name to Lucky. As the farmer summed it up that evening, when you beat the Grim Reaper 5 times in 4 minutes, you ought to be known for surviving the sheer duress of it all. Funny thing was, Lucky did tiptoe back eventually into what he viewed as the risky but familiar farm he'd always known as home. Considering all that bird been through, make me think roosters ain't got much memory. But Buster lived there today, sans tail feathers. Even after months, he's still got a bruise over his sternum and a scar tissue cover his comb. The constant pain in his neck and shoulder run down his bony leg like sciatica, and he got a limp so bad that the straight line to him looked like a circle to everyone else. But he talked to others, make sure they okay, and he kind of watch over the little chicks, just make sure they got what they need. Mostly, though, he spent an inordinate amount of time trying to decipher every subtle change in Tink's expression and keeping a close eye on the farmer, who clearly sometimes in it for himself. And Buster don't just come when called, neither, not till he see the feed hit the ground. I used to wonder how big a bird brain really be, but somehow I think now Buster at least know he lucky. I sure hope my fellow Americans do too, 'cause our barnyard ain't necessarily safe inside. Insiders pose the biggest threat as outsiders. Every candidate talk up how great America is, but one right now got a not-so-secret plan, a plan he disavow to destroy America. And a lot of down-ballot candidates running for other offices make it clear they go along for a little power of their own. Fact is, instead of cheering them on, folks should be insulted by what they're being told. You got all the facts in the world on one side and the smudged version on the other. Like my buddy Mark Twain said, it's a lot easier to fool a man than to convince him he'd been fooled. We talk more about all that. Just remember, it all starts by learning a lot, being nice to everyone, and having a lot of fun. And of course, listening well. In fact, maybe you want to start with just listening to old Finn here. See you soon.